Hey everybody, Steve Ritter. Just got through the workout. Time for a smoothie and a story. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I think you're in for a treat. Some folks have been asking about my flying, so I thought today that I would tell some stories, some funny, not so fun, some not so funny at the time, but some stories about my flying days. And today's, so I feel like I should quantify something here or clarify something. So a lot of you have mentioned about the fact that spinach or greens of some sort would be great, and you're right. I've got less than a week now in this this room, so I still have some food that I'd like to not have to move so much to my new place. So so I'm trying to eat it up, and I'm just worried because I got to cook through I got to burn through the spinach. I'd have to burn through it pretty quick, and I just, once I get past the weekend, the opportunities for smoothies just really don't present themselves. So so I will though. The place I'm moving has a little grocery store underneath with some great produce there, and also I'm looking forward to that and really getting with the smoothies, because the new place I'm going to doesn't provide meals. So I'm gonna have to cook everything for myself, which would be nice. So should up my my recipe and my cooking that I do. So today's smoothies, Blackberry, and I have some the last of the dates. I soaked them again. Thank you for the idea. I'm gonna put a little bit of peanut butter in it, and also here's another good idea. Somebody was telling me about the kind of peanut butter that separates, that gets the oil in it. They talk about storing it upside down. Keeps the oil from coming out so much. Thank you very much. That's a good idea, and it works. So, and a little bit of the little bit of ginger paste for the anti-inflammation. And let me add a little bit of light here on the subject. Add this to my camera. Production values just continue to improve here at Casa Ritter, and of course the old Laban. Yeah, so it's fermented. This is fermented cow's milk, so like kefir. So let's go ahead and some folks have asked about the brand here with the blender. It's a Kenwood, so Kenwood blender, which now a lot of folks have mentioned the fact that Mom used a Vitamix. That is correct, and I actually have it. So I have her Vitamix. She was real big into the Vitamix. So a big, good sized handful of blackberries. Sneak one. Those are sweet. You know, we get a lot of these in South Carolina. Blackberries grow wild. There's some that grow out wild behind my house. And you pick them when they're really kind of soft and they're sweet. You get them before that, they're kind of tart, kind of sour. So kind of like those currants that I had before. So let's go with a big old spoonful of peanut butter. Drop that in here. This is pretty natural peanut butter. It is tasty. Almost seems like crushed peanut butters. Or peanuts, not peanut butters. No such thing as a peanut butter plant. Dates going in. Sweeten it up a little bit. We'll add a little bit of the ginger paste here. So just probably a teaspoon maybe. You need more than that. Kind of overpowers it, you know what I'm saying? And then two to 3 cups in here. And through the magic of editing and special effects, play a little music. Raul, you and your guys ready to go? Play a little music while the blender's going, and hit it. So you can see the crock pot over here too. This is my dinner tonight. This is that honey garlic chicken. Let's see how that turns out tonight. I'm excited. Smells good already. Which, by the way, don't forget to turn on the crock pot when you put stuff in it, which I did for the first hour. Good thing I checked on it. Now the ginger, it kind of permeates through this. That's tasty. I've gotten to where I like it, you know, it kind of folds through it. It's real nice. I'm pretty thirsty. I should have got some water before I made this, but there we go. Got some extra bits in there I'll take care of later. Put this back in the fridge. Hold on 1 second. Back in the fridge you go. Later. And let's go have a chat. So, those of you who don't know, I retired Air Force, U.S. Air Force. I flew a pilot. I flew C-17s for the Air Force for about 20 years. I was a C-17 guy. That's the only plane other than pilot training. Other plane I flew in the Air Force. And I flew from 1995 on, except for a couple of staff tours and a year of school. So I had three flying assignments with the C-17 in that time. So when I first started flying the C-17 in Charleston, I first got there in 1995. In June of 95, I got there, and the C-17 had gone through a lot of problems, and they had some production problems, and there was a lot of issues, and there was some questions about whether or not the C-17, whether the Air Force is going to buy it or not. So they committed to 40, but that they were threatening to say, well, hey, that's it. That's my lunch, by the way. So I showed up, and it was kind of a gamble for me to pick that airplane coming out of pilot training, because small, tight, community like that, specialized, it's tough to move on in the Air Force like that when you're in a small community like that. The opportunities are a whole lot less. So I show up, and then we had a big operational test in July or August, I think, of that year, and which the C-17 passed with flying colors. So Air Force was like, okay, all the problems are solved, we're going to buy more. So they ended up buying, and at the end they bought about 224, I think, C-17s. And so I was at Charleston first, and so when I first started flying there was hardly any missions. Did a lot of local training. You maybe got one local flight every other week or something like that. There wasn't any. There weren't any missions. The big mission that everybody tried to get on, there was a trip that would go down to Honduras, to Sotocano. They would fly down there and then turn around and come back. And I think you spent one night in Panama or something like that. I forget, but that was it. That was the big trip, was the Sotocano runs. And it was like one trip every other week or a week, or something like that. It was this flying was pretty sparse. And then I went to Altus for training, and I come back from Altus, and I got back in October of 95 and got checked out, and I was fully qualified, ready to go. And then they signed the Dayton Peace Accords, and that was with Bosnia. So that was the Bosnia stuff. So that was the first big deployment, and that was my first big overseas trip. So I got tagged to be on a crew. We went over to Frankfurt, Germany, and first time in Germany, and that was in December of 95. And so we were based out of Frankfurt, and we would fly missions. A lot of times, most of what I did, I was kind of on the we used to joke about, you know, there's the A team and then there's the B team, and we were like the C team. So there's a young aircraft commander, a seasoned first pilot at the end is what we call it, is like a super co-pilot, and then me, the brand new guy, and that was our team. And a guy named Kenny Council and Anna Adams and me, so Kenny Council, KC, so we were KC in the Can-Do crew. That's what we call ourselves. And we would go, a lot of what we did was take off and fly to Tazar, Hungary, which is where the Army kind of pre-positioned, pick up stuff, or we dropped a lot of stuff off, and then they go from Hungary into Bosnia from there. That was a lot of the stuff they were doing there. I remember one time in particular, the weather there I've never felt cold, like that wet kind of cold, like I have there in Bosnia. And we would go into Tuzla Air Base, Bosnia, and we were flying into there, and I've never felt cold like that. That just the kind of cold that just like creeps into underneath your jacket through every little crack, and it was that was cold there. We would fly in, and we can only have one in at a time, one C-17 in at a time, and then we'd offload, engine run and offload, and then turn out and fly back out. And that was a combat mission, so log combat time. And so, you know, we had flak vest on, we had, you know, there were floor plates, armor, and everything else, in case, you know, we didn't know what was going to happen. And so we got in there one night, and we were flying in, and the weather was pretty bad. The ceiling was fine, but the visibility was pretty bad. It was like this kind of light fog. And so we were going in, and we'd have to turn all the lights off. So we land lights out until we were in close to the field, and we turned the lights on, and okay, they're in land. And we're going in, and I was in the jump seat, you know, safety observer, whatever. So we're going in, we come through the clouds, and we see the field, we see the lights on the runway, and we're coming down, and he's like, okay, so we're getting close, and he goes, we configured the airplane, the gear was down, flaps were set, everything, we're coming into land. And Kenny, he goes, okay, go ahead, put the lights on. And so Anna reaches up, she turns all the lights on, and it was like white out, because the lights lit up all the fog, and he couldn't see anything. And so it was us pilots up top, and then the loadmaster sits downstairs in the cargo compartment. He's in a seat. He was in a seat down there. Tom Fields is his name, and it just whites out. Everything whites out, and Kenny goes, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. And Anna's like, you know, stop yelling at me. she turns all the lights off, and now, you know, what he was distracted with the lights. He wasn't flying the approach, and now we're high on glide path. So instead of coming in like this, we're up closer in, and would have had to been a steeper line. So Kenny has to cut the power and try to get back down on the glide path, and we get a big sink rate going. And we get close to the runway, and the plane just starts going stall, and we start getting a stall warning. And because he has the power way back, and he's killing the lift trying to get, you know, not land long and have to go around. And so we get to stall. I just remember Kenny goes, oh Jesus, hang on. and it's not a good thing when pilots invoke the Almighty. Not a good thing, unless you really need them. We didn't need them that time, but we hit pretty firm. But it was not, I felt worse, believe me. And we taxied out, so we go back later, and I go down to the loadmaster, and I go, hey Tom, I was like, what'd you think was going on up there? He goes, man, I don't know, but I was praying too. I talked to Kitty later, I was like, man, you can't be doing that, you know, I mean,
the loadmaster don't know what's going on. I think he was ready to put his parachute on or something. Jump out. Oh, I'll laugh at that. Oh, but we had what's some other? But we flew a lot of that. That was the first big show, and I was gone for 52 days on that deployment. So we deployed to Germany, and in 52 days, I think I had a day and a half off. Otherwise, you were either flying or working in the office or sitting alert and in your room, which is, it's not like time off because they can call you at any moment. If you're legal for alert, you're like on the you're sitting alert. They could call you and go, bus is on the way. You got 3 hours to take off, and that was they call it Bravo alert, which we all hated. But that's no kind of rest. That's no kind of time off because you really can't do anything. You can't go anywhere. You're stuck in your room. It's like being a prisoner till they call you when they need you. But we did that. That was the first big show, and we did real well with that deployment. I was real proud to be a part of all that. But flew out of Germany, out of Frankfurt, which was my first time. And we were downtown in Sachsenhausen was the name of the town down there, or the little community in Frankfurt, and I thought that was the coolest thing. And I remember they had there on base. There used to be a base there. Rhein-Main was the name of the base, and it was a big base for during the Berlin airlift. There was a lot of stuff going out of Rhein-Main, but the U.S. Air Force moved out of there not long after that. So that was like probably in '97 or '8, something like that. We finally closed the base down and gave it back to, or actually we left, and the Germans took it over, and of course now Frankfurt's is a huge international airport, big cargo hub and everything. Anyway, Rhein-Main, they had there was a base there at the time, and there was a shopette, and I remember going there, and we'd go do shelf check, is what we called it. Do a shelf check at the BX, and going in there, and they had they called it Class 6, which is like the liquor, wine, beer store. And I'm like, well, German wine. I'll bring some wine home, for Arlene, and this would be great, So I'm walking the aisles, and I'm like, oh, there's some real German wine, white wine, and she liked white wine at the time, and so I'm like, I brought like 4 bottles home. And then my wife's aunt had come down and had brought a whole bunch of wine too. So I had like 2 boxes of wine that I brought home. And the wine my wife's aunt brought was the good local stuff from around their area, which you couldn't really get. So that was fine. It was the stuff I got at the shopette. I get home and I'm all, proud. I'm like, hey, look at what I brought you. I brought you many gifts from the Orient, like it was like Marco Polo coming home. I'm like, I brought you many treasures. And she's like, oh man, this is great. Being married to this airlift guy, awesome. He's gonna bring me all kind of stuff. And she comes home about 4 or 5 days later, and she had gone to the on base to the shopette for something. She came back. She goes, because they have the Class 6 there too. And she goes, I can buy this wine down at the shopette just down the street, right? Same wine. I'm like, no, I didn't know that, because I hauled that stuff all the way from Germany. I mean, it was hauling it. I'm trying to carry on my own bags and hauling this stuff around. That's the downside to bringing stuff back, because you got to carry it. So, and over the years, flying a cargo plane's kind of nice. Fighter guys have a hard time. My brother-in-law, F-16 guy, he don't get to bring home the treasures I do, because I have this big cargo compartment. It's like, as long as you can carry it, the fact you might have to, haul it to wherever. If your plane breaks, you got to carry it. Nobody going to carry your stuff for you. As long as you can, whatever you want to bring. So I've brought home like drying racks for clothes. I brought those home. I couldn't stand that. And I brought a headboard back one time that my sister-in-law Anna had made, and said, hey, do you want this? And Arlene's like, yeah, I want it. And so I had to bring that back from Germany. And and I'm walking on the plane with this headboard, and people are like, "What?" And I'm like, oh, I don't know, my wife needs this. I don't know. But you know, flying around Africa, we brought a bunch of treasures back, bunch of my carved antelope, a bunch of different things we brought back from Africa. And but usually, if you go places, you know, and I've found this with the globalization of the world now. I mean, if you can buy, you know, things anywhere just about, you know, and except for like the Kinder eggs, if you know those. Yeah, sorry about that. Had a little actually ran out of storage on the phone. I got a lot of stuff on there. I guess I had to clean this phone up, but it ended up cutting out on me. Anyway, talking about the Kinder eggs, I've heard, I think they're illegal in the U.S. now. But those are the little ones that have the little toys in them that come in the little they come in a little plastic, little tiny egg, and then they put chocolate, like milk chocolate coating over the top of it. It's like a shell, like an egg, and you eat the chocolate and crack it open, and then there's a little toy inside. And so I think they quit allowing that because it was like a choking hazard. The toys are so tiny that it's easy for kids to swallow them and everything else. But I would travel and I would get those and I'd bring them home, and you know, in my own personal baggage. And you know, my kids had Kinder egg toys all over their dressers and everything else. But you know, you could get you know, like I said, the wines and the cheeses and all that stuff. I mean, you can go down to the you know, Trader Joe's or some of these other places now, and you can find real French, you know, Camembert cheese and all of the things that, you know, used to be you had to go to the country or it was real hard to find, but it's easier these days. But so finally got to the point. Arlene was like, well, just you know, look, one of these days we go, I'll see it myself or whatever, but you don't need to be bringing all this stuff home. And because early on I was bringing a lot of junk home. Our biggest, funniest thing was the black soap from Spain, and that was apparently that was the big rage. And I'm on this trip. We stopped through Spain on the way home one time, and they're like, yeah, you know, everybody's getting this black soap, and everybody was ranting and raving about it. I'm like, oh, okay. And that was like the joke for a long time in our family, was about bringing black soap home for people, because I guess Arlene just never got it, or never saw the benefit of it or whatever. But anyway, that's just a few of my stories, funny memories that I remember. Anyway, I hope everybody has a great day, and we'll see you next time. It's Colonel signing off. Over and out.